major religious and ethnic holiday. Columbus Day may be. Is a coach not supposed to have tryouts or practices or whatever on those days because that day may be observed by somebody as a major non-religious, a major
I don't think you could argue
non-national
that.
holiday?
I don't think you could argue that St. Patrick's Day is a major non-national religious holiday. I mean, not even Ireland is it that big of a.
Well, it's not only religious, it's ethnic.
Yeah, but.
Days too. I mean, and I think it is actually, but I'm just saying that if for some reason tryouts are limited to a week and somebody misses two days because of one of these so-called holidays, and there's not an opportunity to observe that person or to see that person try out, and that person is not placed on a team or the team they wanted to be on, is that being penalized, or is it just a matter of a coach or the maskers not being able to see that person
I
participate?
think they have to make accommodations to,
Yeah, I think they would have
Assess.
to have some sort of, schedule some sort of time in which they could see that student. I mean, the list of holidays is available on the DOE website for anybody to go look at and print out and have with them when they make their schedules. And it's a balance between what is and is not a reasonable accommodation. And it's a fine line, and we're trying to make the best policy we can with with the information we have and knowing the student population that we have currently, but we have to leave it flexible enough for, how that population might change in the future.
And with the exception of April, where April is practically every day, there's some sort of an event. The rest of the months have enough spaces in them so that you could schedule something that would be.
I see the word ethnic holidays included in here. Is that something in addition to what the state mandate is? Because when I'm reading the paragraph,
the state thing.
yeah, I don't see anything about ethnic holidays. It talks about religious holidays.
This
Well,
is
I
just-
believe Kwanzaa is considered to be an ethnic rather than a religious.
But are we going a step
holiday.
beyond? In other words, if we're talking about major religious holidays, by including ethnic holidays, are we stepping into an area that we don't need to step into? Because I just noticed on the state, the state law that it doesn't say anything about ethnic holidays.
Do we say ethnic in what we just,
Yeah, we do.
I didn't,
Well, we talk about state and federal required, as part of these accommodations, students may miss school and not participate in celebrations of their family's major religious and ethnic holidays. And that seems to be a little bit of a step outside of the religious holidays. And I don't see that mentioned anywhere.
yeah, see, that does go beyond what the state, because the state focuses on religion.
Because I think actually, I think the draft policy is actually pretty good. I like it better than what
Right.
we have for this single paragraph of the state, because it establishes some parameters too, as to when things have to be done, instead of just leaving it out there. So I think it's actually very good. I am concerned about the ethnic part of it, because I think that makes it more inclusive than it needs to be.
It goes beyond what the state says. What I was trying to get at in asking David questions is this basically, does this go much beyond your advisory that you would give every year? Because by having this as a policy, at least it's more visible. We have an official policy. If it basically reflects the same instructions that you put out in your advisory, then I don't really have an issue with it. Because we still have to, in other words, we still have to deal with it in the same way.
Right.
But we are taking action to make it an official school
I think this
district
policy as written will pretty much handle 98% of the issues that arise, and the 2% that don't would have to be handled on maybe an individual basis to determine a definition of what is included in here, what isn't.
Right.
The one thing I think is the ethnic.
I do have an issue with that too, and I think we need to.
Well, just, if I could clarify that, if you look at the third paragraph versus the fourth paragraph, the fourth paragraph is coming back and just focusing on religious holidays. Whereas the third paragraph says, if a student is absent from school because of either a religious and/or ethnic holiday, it's saying what they're not going to be deprived of. That is, whereas the fourth paragraph is dealing more with scheduling. And to be quite honest with you, every year that I've issued that advisory, I've gone actually a step further and I have identified specifically what religious holidays we're talking about. And I will list them out. They're not listed in our school calendar. I don't think it's appropriate to put them in our school calendar. Up to this year, where we did list that the schools would be closed on Good Friday. But we're doing that, as Mrs. Davis said, not because we're recognizing and observing that holiday from a school standpoint. School will not be in session on that day. But the major dates that I've always focused on, at least up to this point, have included Rosh Hashanah and the 2 days for Yom Kippur, Good Friday, and if Easter, obviously Easter's on a Sunday, so the day after Easter would be another day in which I would expect that there would be some accommodations and Passover.
But I think with.
So I've been specific.
I think
in
with the
terms of-
ethnic makeup, though, the town now is changing a little bit. There could be more holidays, more religious holidays involved than just the
Mhm.
Christian and the Jewish holidays. And again, I will vote to approve this. I do have some concerns about the ethnic holidays being included in here when it isn't included in here. That's the only thing. Other than that, I think it's extremely well written.
Well, I think
Tries to-
it's just,
I
I
just
think
don't.
it's good to have it in there.
I don't think we need to have it in there. I think we create a necessary other category of days that aren't necessarily contemplated in the state, or the Winchester policy that you used. I'm not sure that we need to include that in there.
Yeah, I would like
Well,
to
then
see.
they probably won't come up, is the
Well-
thing. I'm just concerned that, in the future, as the makeup of the town changes, there may be a greater population who would be observing Chinese New Year, say, which doesn't always fall on a convenient day from a Western calendar point of view. And I could see a problem arising from not paying attention to those days.
Well, and again, that's something we could maybe look at. I just don't want to go that far outside of the box beyond what's already been established.
Yeah, I would ask that before we get a final reading, that you rethink the ethnic issue myself. I think sticking with what the state writes or rules on in terms of religious observances is what I would like to see us do. I too would approve the policy, but I do have an issue with the ethnic holiday issue.
And I think,
so-
I think it's well written, because I think it expands on the parameters and it lays out some guidelines. I don't think it'll put, I think potential is to have some more burden put on our teachers because of this, but,
Well, we batted that one back and forth too, between what was a greater burden to force the teachers to have, a review session when they would prefer to be going on with the curriculum, or, to force the teachers, to have that instead of an exam, or to force the teachers to create an alternate exam for a makeup exam for students who couldn't make the original one. And I think we concluded that the greater burden would be to take the whole class through a review rather than create a makeup exam for one student.
And I think the burden is there anyway. One thing I like about this is it does put it in the policy, and it's maybe after a few years, maybe it becomes less of a burden and
More
it becomes
routine.
more
Right.
routine.
More routine.
But again, I'm with Jerry on if you guys talk about the whole ethnic holiday issue, because I think that opens up maybe a bigger issue that we need to think about.
Well,
Further.
what is your concern that,
Well, my concern is it goes beyond what the state, what the state law talks about, unless it's another state law for
well, I mean,
ethnic holidays.
what's wrong with that? What's wrong with going beyond what the state
Because it
requires.
just adds more, that adds more of a burden, in my opinion. When, if the state requires a certain, I'd like to, kind of stay within the state guidelines, or the state framework, and I think it could add more confusion. I mean, how many ethnic holidays are there? We would have to add all those ethnic holidays to the 4 pages.
No, it's not a real ethnically diverse town, but.
Well, but it could be.
That's changing.
But it is changing. So that's my concern, is that it would add a lot more holidays, to the list that we have to consider. So that, I'd have an issue with that. So if you guys could discuss that.
Yeah. Well, I know the Chicago school system shuts down on Pulaski Day. That's a big
Yeah.
ethnic holiday.
That's a perfect example, though. I don't wanna be shut down on Pulaski Day. I mean, we may end up with 4 days a year we can give tests if we're not careful, so.
Can I just clarify, this policy is not saying that we're not going to
At school.
have school, and it does not say that we're not, that there may not be assessments going on at any time. It's just saying, one, you need to be sure that all children can have appropriate and reasonable accommodations. It does say about some things that you should refrain from doing, and that's one-time school teachers, or teachers meaning the staff, the school, should refrain from scheduling one-time school-sponsored events such as field trips and plays and so forth. But life will go on any of these days. And that's always been part of the advisory as well, and sometimes that's not clear. We would say to staff, be thoughtful in your planning. If you know that a number of children are not going to be there, every class does not need to give a test on that day or the day after. And avoid having major.
But that's not necessarily, I mean, there are some of these days that we would consider, non-national major religious holidays, where there may not be 3 children in the entire grade that aren't there, but they're genuine holidays where those 3 kids aren't gonna be there. So, I mean, if Pulaski Day is a major ethnic day for Polish people, then are we including that in as another day where you would have to accommodate those children with these types of makeups and things like that? I'm just not crazy until I have time to think about a little bit more about the ethnic part of it, as opposed to the religious part of it.
Unless directed otherwise, it still would be my intent every year to send out an advisory, a reminder through the principals to the staff. And again, let me identify for now what I would be focused on. I would be focused on the holidays that I named before. And until there is sufficient questions that are raised, I'm not going to give out the state list and say, this is the list that I'm expecting this policy to be focused on.
But I think that list could expand.
It could over
considerably.
time.
Considerably. But again, I'll just reiterate, and I'm not even saying I won't vote for, I will vote for it, I will even vote to include the ethnic part of it if we can't come to a consensus on it. I think it's well written.
Okay. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Cliff and Dr. Drew did a great deal of work.
Next we have,
We need to take a motion.
oh, do we on that?
First reading.
Oh, okay.
Approve of first reading.
We have a motion to approve first reading with suggested amendments. Can I have a motion?
What specific suggested amendments?
Oh,
other than
adding-
putting in major before?
Adding major and major, I think, is the only one that I had.
Okay, where's the
What about the
second
ethnic?
major that needs to be?
Well, the ethnic issue is,
Again,
I
if
guess, how do we,
If we approve this for first reading and there's a change made, do we have to, can we incorporate that into the second reading? or do we-
Yes.
yeah, we can.
And then you could go on to a third.
So I guess it's to make the one suggested edit and then to have the committee, the subcommittee, consider the inclusion of ethnic holidays. So I could have a motion for that.
Move to approve as amended on the first reading.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mr. Bowers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, next we have a administrative contract, but before we